You know that feeling when you really want to lock in a new good habit? Or maybe finally ditch one that's just not working for you anymore?
Oh, yeah. Like that morning meditation you keep meaning to start, or maybe scrolling less before bed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it can feel like this huge, overwhelming thing.
Uh,
But what if the key isn't some massive effort? What if it's about understanding the tiny building blocks?
the atomic units of behavior.
Hmm.
Small things, almost invisible actions.
But they compound, right? They lead to these big shifts over time.
Precisely. And what's so great about looking at it this way is how it kind of demystifies change. We often get fixated on the big goal, that shiny outcome.
Forgetting the process.
Right. Forgetting the actual steps, the fundamental processes that get us there. So this deep dive, looking at the principles from Atomic Habits, it's really designed to give you that foundational understanding.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission today really is to break down that core framework. How do you build the good habits? How do you uh, dismantle the bad ones?
Mhm.
We're going to dig into these 4 key laws of behavior change from the book. Think of it as like your roadmap for understanding how habits actually form.
And how you can use that knowledge yourself.
Totally. How you can leverage them.
And these laws, they aren't just, abstract ideas. They offer a really practical step-by-step blueprint for actually shaping your daily routines on purpose.
Okay.
We'll get into each one, show what they are, but also, actionable ways you can put them to work.
Okay, sounds good. So let's dive right in then. The first fundamental principle, Law 1. It's all about the cue.
Right, the cue.
Essentially, every single habit, good or bad, it starts with a cue, doesn't it? Consciously or not.
Precisely. The cue is the spark. It's that little bit of information your brain picks up on that says, okay, time to start this routine.
And what's wild is how many different forms these cues can take.
Oh, absolutely. It could be the time on the clock. It could be a specific place you're in,
Uh-huh.
an event that just finished, maybe how you're feeling emotionally at that moment.
Right. Stressed, bored.
Yeah, or even just being around certain people. All potential cues.
It's like a trigger, isn't it? And a chain reaction. One thing happens and boom, it nudges you towards a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the source material really pushes this one strategy
Yeah.
for using this first law for good habits. It's called implementation intention.
Ah, yes. Very powerful.
So, practically speaking, it's about making a super specific plan, right? Filling in this sentence, I will do the behavior at this time in this location.
That specificity is absolutely key. Instead of something vague like, I want to eat healthier, which is nice, but
Hard to act on.
exactly. An implementation intention gives you a clear trigger, like I will prepare a healthy salad for lunch. Okay, good start. But then add at 12:30 p.m. in my office kitchen.
Ah, okay. So the what, when, and where, it strengthens that cue, makes
Mhm.
it really concrete.
It does. Makes it much easier for your brain to just click into gear when 12:30 rolls around and you're in the kitchen.
Okay, so building on that idea of triggers in our environment, there's another really useful technique called habit stacking.
Yes. Love this one.
And it's about linking a new habit. You want to start with one you already do, right? The formula is basically, after my current habit, I will do the new habit.
It's clever because it uses the pathways already built in your brain. Your existing routine becomes the natural cue for the new one.
Gotcha.
So say you want to stretch more. You could stack it like, after I finish my morning coffee, that's the current habit.
Which you do anyway.
Right. I will do 3 hamstring stretches. That's the new habit. And the key, especially at the start, is to make that new bit really, really small.
Just 3 stretches.
Super easy.
Incredibly easy, so you actually do it.
Right. And it doesn't have to stay tiny forever. You can build on it.
Mm.
Maybe start with 3 stretches, then next week, I don't know, 5 stretches.
Exactly. Gradual progression.
The source also really emphasizes making the cues for your good habits really visible, putting them right there in your environment.
Absolutely essential. If you want to drink more water, don't hide the water bottle in the cupboard.
Mm.
Put it on your desk, right where you see it all the time.
Or if you want to read more, leave the book out.
Yeah. Leave it open on your nightstand or on the coffee table. Make the cue obvious, make it easy to stumble upon, and you're constantly giving yourself that little nudge.
Okay, that makes sense. So law 1, make it obvious. Got it. Now the second law gets into the why behind our habits, the driving force, the craving. Law 2 is make it attractive.
Mm-hmm.
It almost sounds like we're trying to like sell ourselves on good behavior.
Well, in a way, you kind of are. Habits are so tied up with our feelings, our emotions, and cravings are the fuel, the motivation that actually pushes them forward.
Okay.
And a really interesting strategy here is something called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. Okay, what's that?
It's a smart trick, really. You link something you want to do, something you enjoy, with an action you feel you need to do, but maybe don't enjoy as much.
Okay, give me an example. How does that work in practice?
Okay, let's say you really look forward to watching your favorite streaming show, right? But you also know you need to get more exercise.
A common dilemma.
Indeed. So with temptation bundling, you'd make a rule. You only allow yourself to watch that show while you're on the treadmill or using the exercise bike.
Ah, I see. So the fun thing, watching the show, becomes the immediate reward for doing the exercise.
Exactly. It makes the necessary thing, the exercise, much more appealing, more attractive.
That is clever. You're basically hijacking your own desires to do the stuff that's good for you.
Pretty much.
Now, the source also talks about the huge impact of like social norms, our environment, the people around us. How does that play into making habits attractive?
Well, think about it. We're social creatures, right? Deep down, we want to fit in. We want to do what the group does, what's seen as normal and valued in our circles. So if you deliberately seek out and join groups or communities where the behavior you want to adopt is the norm, say, everyone in the group loves cooking healthy meals, or they're all training for a 5K.
Rubs off on you.
It totally rubs off. It makes that desired behavior seem much more attractive, more normal, more achievable because you see others doing it and enjoying it.
That makes total sense. Peer pressure for good. And finally, on making habits attractive, the book mentions reframing how we think about them, shifting our perspective.
Yes. This is about the internal narrative, the language we use, the associations we make in our own minds.
So instead of thinking, ugh, I have to exercise.
Right. Instead of seeing it as a chore, reframe it. Think of it as your time to boost your energy or relieve stress or build strength. Focus on the benefits, the positive aspects.
Like seeing healthy food not as deprivation, but as fuel for your body.
Exactly. By consciously highlighting the positives, you make even the habits that seem challenging feel more appealing, more attractive mentally.
Okay, good stuff. Law 1, make it obvious. Law 2, make it attractive. Now we get to Law 3, which is all about making the habit itself easier to do. Make it easy.
Yes. This one resonates with most people, I find.
I can see why. We all like easy. Right?
Absolutely. The source calls it the law of least effort. We are fundamentally wired to choose the option that takes the least amount of work or energy.
Makes sense.
So the strategy is clear. Make good habits incredibly easy to do, and conversely, make bad habits harder. Let's start with reducing friction for the good ones.
Okay, friction. So like removing obstacles. Give us some real-world examples. How can we design our environment to make good habits the easy choice?
Okay, simple things. Want to work out? First thing. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. They're right there, ready to go. No rummaging around in the morning.
Reduces that first step.
Exactly. Or trying to eat healthier snacks. Don't just buy fruits and veggies. Wash them, cut them up, put them in clear containers right at the front of the fridge. Make them the easiest thing to grab.
While the cookies are maybe on a high shelf in an opaque jar.
Precisely. Keep the less healthy stuff out of sight, harder to reach. Minimize the steps to the good habit, maximize them for the bad.
It's all about lowering that initial hurdle, isn't it? Making the good habit the default, the path of least resistance.
That's the core idea.
Now, the book introduces a really neat concept here called the 2-minute rule. How does just 2 minutes help make habits easy?
So, the 2-minute rule is about scaling down any new habit until it takes, you guessed it, 2 minutes or less to do.
Okay.
The point isn't necessarily to only do it for 2 minutes forever, though sometimes that's enough to start. The real goal is to make starting the habit ridiculously easy. So easy you can't say no.
Like instead of read before bed, it's read 1 page.
Exactly. Or instead of do yoga, it's just roll out my yoga mat.
Huh. Okay. You're just getting the motion started.
You're mastering the art of showing up. Once you've started, even in that tiny way, it's much, much easier to keep going if you feel like it. But the pressure is off.
That's brilliant for overcoming procrastination, that initial inertia.
It really is.
And the source also mentions standardizing before optimizing. What's that about in the context of making things easy?
It means focus on just doing the habit consistently first. Nail down the basics. Show up regularly. Then, once the habit is actually established, once it's standard practice for you.
Then you can worry about making it better.
Exactly. Then you can optimize. Increase the duration or the intensity, or refine your technique. But first, just make the basic action routine. Master showing up before you worry about peak performance. You need to walk before you run, basically.
Okay, standardize, then optimize.
Yeah.
Got it. We're making good progress. Law 1, obvious. Law 2, attractive. Law 3, easy. And now the final law, Law 4, which is all about reinforcement. Make it satisfying.
This law taps into a really fundamental aspect of how our brains work. Behavior is driven by consequences. Meaning, actions that get rewarded immediately are much more likely to be repeated, and actions that get punished immediately. We tend to avoid those. The key word there is immediately.
Right, the timing matters. So how do we apply this to building good habits? How do we make, say, going for a run immediately satisfying when the real benefits might be weeks away?
That's the challenge. And one great tool the source suggests is using a habit tracker.
Like a calendar where you put an X each day you do the habit?
Exactly. It could be a physical calendar, a notebook, a spreadsheet, an app, whatever works for you. The simple act of marking it off, seeing that visual proof of your progress, that gives you a little hit of satisfaction right away.
Yeah, I can see that. Ticking a box feels good.
Yeah.
And seeing the chain build up, you don't want to break the chain.
Precisely. It creates its own momentum. That visual progress is really motivating and reinforces the behavior instantly.
The source also talks about making the immediate reward feel good, even if the ultimate payoff is way down the line.
Yes, because those big long-term rewards, better health, more money, whatever, they can feel very abstract, very distant in the moment.
So you need something sooner.
You need something sooner to bridge that gap. So create a small, immediate reward that you genuinely enjoy and link it directly to completing the habit. Maybe after you finish your workout, you allow yourself to, I don't know, take a relaxing bath or listen to your favorite podcast.
Ah, okay. Something that feels like a treat right after the effort.
Exactly. A small pleasure that reinforces the habit immediately.
Okay. And what about the flip side? What if we don't stick to the plan? How can we use satisfaction, or maybe dissatisfaction, to keep us on track? The book mentions accountability partners and habit contracts.
Right. These introduce an immediate negative consequence, or at least a lack of satisfaction, if you don't do the habit.
How so?
Well, an accountability partner is just someone you tell your goals to, someone who checks in, who you report back to. Just knowing you have to tell someone you skipped your workout.
Can be enough to make you do it.
It can be a powerful motivator. A habit contract takes it a step further. You actually write down your commitment and you specify a penalty if you break it. Maybe you have to pay your friend $10 or do a chore you hate.
Ooh, okay. So that makes not doing the habit immediately unsatisfying because there's a real pre-agreed cost.
Exactly. It leverages that immediate consequence principle.
Okay, great. So those are the 4 laws for building good habits. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying. But what about getting rid of the bad ones, the ones we really want to shake?
Well, the good news is the framework just flips. You use the inverse of the 4 laws.
The opposite principles.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the inverse of law 1. Make it obvious. That would be make it invisible.
Precisely. Instead of making the cues prominent, you want to reduce your exposure to the triggers for your bad habits.
Okay, how do we do that? Make the cues disappear.
Environmental redesign is your friend here. If seeing cookies in the jar triggers you to eat them, get the cookies out of the house, or at least out of sight.
Right.
If your phone buzzing with social media notifications is the cue that leads to mindless scrolling.
Turn off the notifications.
Exactly. Make the cue invisible. Remove the trigger from your environment as much as possible. You reduce the odds the habit even starts.
Out of sight, out of mind. Makes sense. Okay, inverse of law 2. Make it attractive. Must be. Make it unattractive.
You got it.
Oh.
How do you make that tempting bad habit seem less appealing?
Wow.
You consciously reframe it. You focus on the negative consequences, not the fleeting pleasure. So instead of thinking about how good that cigarette might feel for a moment, actively remind yourself of the health risks, the cost, the bad breath. Highlight the downsides.
So connect the habit directly with its negative outcomes in your mind.
Yes. Diminish the craving by making the habit itself seem less desirable, more unattractive.
Okay, that makes sense. Focus on the pain, not the pleasure. Inverse of law 3. Make it easy. Has to be.
Yeah.
Make it difficult.
Naturally. Increase the friction. Add steps between you and the bad habit.
Make it harder to do. Examples.
Sure. Want to watch less TV? Unplug it after each use? Store the remote in another room, maybe in a drawer, just adding those extra steps.
Makes it less likely you'll just flop down and turn it on impulsively.
Right, or trying to stop impulse online shopping. Delete your saved credit card details from websites. Log out of accounts. Add friction.
Make it inconvenient. Require more deliberate effort.
Okay.
And finally, the inverse of law 4, make it satisfying, is make it unsatisfying.
Yes. Create an immediate downside to indulging in the bad habit.
And this sounds like where those accountability partners and habit contracts come in again.
Exactly. They work both ways. If you slip up on breaking a bad habit, having to report that to your accountability partner feels unsatisfying. If you have a habit contract with a penalty for, say, smoking a cigarette or eating junk food.
Then doing the bad habit immediately leads to that unsatisfying consequence you agreed on.
Precisely. It introduces an immediate cost or punishment, making the bad habit less appealing in the moment.
Okay, so let's quickly recap the strategy for breaking bad habits.
Mm.
It's make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. A clear reversal.
That's the framework.
Now, towards the end, the source material pulls out a couple of cardinal rules of behavior change. Things definitely worth underlining.
Absolutely. The first one really hammers home a point we've touched on a lot. What is immediately rewarded gets repeated. What is immediately punished gets avoided.
The immediacy is key.
It's fundamental. It explains why making good habits satisfying and bad habits unsatisfying right away is so effective.
Okay? And the second cardinal rule, it emphasizes the power of tiny improvements, getting just 1% better each day. Why is that small number so important?
Well, 1% doesn't sound like much, does it? On any single day, it's almost unnoticeable.
Right. Seems insignificant.
But the power is in the compounding. Over weeks, months, a year, those tiny 1% gains add up incredibly. It's like compound interest for self-improvement.
Ah, okay. It builds momentum.
Huge momentum. It leads to remarkable results in the long run. It's all about consistency and gradual progress, not necessarily huge leaps.
It's that atomic idea again, isn't it? Coming full circle, small things adding up.
Exactly.
And finally, the book touches on something deeper. Identity-based habits. This feels like it goes beyond just actions.
It really does. Identity-based habits shift the focus. It's not just about what you want to achieve, like running a marathon. It's about who you want to become.
Okay.
So the goal isn't just run a marathon. The goal is become a runner. You start to see yourself differently. You cultivate that identity.
And how does that help?
Because when you truly start to believe, I am a runner or I am a healthy person, your behaviors start to align naturally with that identity. It's no longer about forcing yourself. It's about acting in accordance with who you believe you are. It makes the habit stick on a much deeper level.
Wow. Okay. That's a powerful shift. So, bringing this all home, what are the main takeaways people should remember from this deep dive?
I think the main thing is understanding that you can consciously design your habits. It's not mystical. There's a practical framework.
Those 4 laws.
Those 4 laws. For building good habits, make the cues obvious, make the craving attractive, make the response easy, and make the reward satisfying.
And then flip it for bad habits.
And flip it for bad habits.
Great.
Make them invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. Use this framework, apply it consistently, and you gain real control over your daily actions, which ultimately shapes your future.
Right. So, quick summary. Cue, craving, response, reward. That's the loop.
Mm-hmm.
And the strategies. Obvious, attractive, easy, satisfying for the good stuff.
And invisible, unattractive, difficult, unsatisfying for the bad stuff.
Don't forget that 1% better idea, too.
Absolutely. The power of compounding small improvements and aiming for that identity shift, becoming the person who does those habits naturally.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe chew on. Can you identify just one tiny atomic habit you could start implementing right now? Like today, based on these ideas.
Something really small.
Yeah, super small. Maybe it's just laying out your workout clothes tonight before bed, making it obvious and easy. Or putting a piece of fruit right next to your keys, visible cue for a healthy snack.
Or maybe adding that 1 page of reading before sleep, the 2-minute rule.
Exactly. Just pick one small thing. Because remember, those huge transformations, they often start with the absolute smallest step. That first tiny atomic move towards becoming the person you want to be.